As far as UFOs go, and talking about them on military base, a lot of people don't. The older guys, especially the officers, they don't want you talking about that shit at all. I mean, really, they don't. UFOs, because I don't know why. I really don't. I don't know why. They just don't find it funny. And I wouldn't talk about it seriously. But I was serious. Uh, just don't do it. I remember I was at Wright-Patterson for a seminar. Um, Something new about shipping, or some regulation or publication was coming out, and or a way of doing something, whatever the hell it was. It was like a 3 day class at Wright-Patterson where allegedly, there's UFOs and aliens. So it's the last day of the seminar, and Captain was teaching it, and he was really friendly, really cool. And I remember sitting on a table, having a drink. I don't think it was a beer. Could have been, because it was part of the non-commissioned officers club, the NCO club, in a room, like a banquet room where we had the seminar. Yeah, I might have whatever. So we're sitting there and we're talking, and we're talking about going out for a beer, whatever. Me, the captain, and I don't know, maybe three other people. And I said to the captain, I said, "What's the deal with the UFOs here, man? Are they here?" And he's smiling still, and he pauses, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" And he goes, I, I, he goes, "You want to see one?" And I'm like, "What? Hell yeah!" And he goes, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah, are you fucking kidding me?" He goes, "Hold on." Now, at this point, I don't know what's going on. Either we're going to go see some UFOs, or he's going to have me arrested, or whatever. I don't. All this stuff's going through my head, and I'm like, because he leaves, and he comes back with a major. No, it wasn't a major. He was a lieutenant colonel, older guy. Didn't look too happy. Comes, and the captain is looking like he just got his ass chewed. So the captain brings Lieutenant Colonel to me, points me out. He looks at me. He goes, "You talking about fucking UFOs?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." Because we don't talk about UFOs. He gives me, "Stop talking about UFOs. There ain't no fucking UFOs." And you don't, whatever, whatever, whatever. Whatever he said. Shut the fuck up. "Yes, sir." He walks off. Captain looks at me, turns around, walks off. And I was like, what the hell was that, man? Was the dude being like sincere? Or was he just like, "Oh, here we got another guy asking about UFOs. Here, let's get this guy." I don't know, man, but it's pretty convincing, pretty weird. I never been almost excited to see something in my life, and then get shot down like that. Because you know, I was like, I didn't know what to do. I was like, what the fuck? We gonna see some UFOs? What? No. Anyway, I'm really getting off the subject here. I might have to edit this down a lot. But so let's get into Roswell. All right. So what happens? Mac Brazel, big thunderstorm. Here's a big boom. Next day, goes checks on a sheep, Foster Ranch, sees all this shit on the ground, everywhere. everywhere. 3/4 of a mile long, 200 yards plus wide. 3/4 of a mile long, goes out like this, 300 yards wide. Looks at it, all this crap, silvery metal parts, beams, foil-like stuff everywhere. Picks some of it up, goes to his neighbors, you know what this is, and he even asks for help. Can you help me clean this shit? Because the sheep need to go over here, this is where the water is, and not crossing the debris field. Goes to 2 different neighbors, they're not, they don't want to help him. Goes to the sheriff's department, brings them stuff, they don't know what it is. Now here, at this point, I can understand, maybe the rancher didn't know, but, and I said this in the other video, balloons were launched at Roswell and in the town every day. And these balloons have radar targets on them. And they all look the same, you know what I mean? They're made up of the same shit, okay? Foil with paper backing to make it stronger, okay? And plywood. They all look the same. Military, civilian, whatever. Brings them to the sheriff's department, which, by the way, is across from the weather station where they launch these balloons every day. Sheriff goes, I don't know what this is. You need to call the boys at Roswell. Calls Roswell. Jesse Marcel, Major Marcel, comes and looks at it. Asks Mac Brazel to take him to the debris field. They go to the debris field. Major Marcel packs some of it up, brings it to his house, shows his kids. Well, shows his son, his family, and his wife. They talk about it. The next day he brings it to the base, where he shows the commander. Now understand, Major Marcel is the base intelligence person. Okay? He's the intelligence officer for the base. Which means Major Marcel is a smart guy. Okay? You're not the intelligence officer of the only nuclear base in the friggin' world and not be a responsible person. Okay? So he brings the debris to the commander, Colonel Blanchard. Colonel Blanchard looks at it, the base commander of the only nuclear base on the planet, and says to his PR guy, put this out on the wire. RAAF has captured a flying saucer in Roswell region. Okay? There's no way, no friggin' way that the major, the intelligence officer of the base, and base commander, nuclear base, would not be able to tell the difference between a friggin' weather balloon radar target and exotic material that supposedly came from a UFO. Now there's a lot of questions on, well, why would he say that? Why would Colonel Blanchard say that was a UFO when you just saw the debris? Well, there's where the break in the story goes. Supposedly they'd already found another crash site. So there were 2. There's a debris field and a UFO buried in the dirt. Some, I don't know, miles away. Corona, New Mexico. So they put out on the wire they've recovered a disc, flying saucer. Colonel Blanchard says that General Ramey, commander of the 8th Air Force, or whatever the hell, 8th, whatever, I have it somewhere, whatever, headquarters, wants him to come up, Fort Hood, wants to see it. So Major Marcel brings the stuff to Fort Hood. General Ramey, before he even gets there, before Major Marcel gets to Fort Hood, General Ramey calls Colonel Blanchard and says, it's a weather balloon. Okay, that's the story. Guys made a mistake. It's a weather balloon. What Major Marcel doesn't know is that the press is at Fort Hood waiting for him. He's being set up. Anybody that knows the simple sequence of events that are very well known and nobody disputes them, the exact events that I just told you, can say that he wasn't set up. He gets there and there's radar target debris on the friggin' floor and there's reporters there. General Ramey says, just pose for the camera, I'll talk. Hasn't even looked at the stuff yet, man. Now, here you are, the intelligence officer for Roswell, the guy who brought back the material to Roswell, to Colonel Blanchard, and it's a weather balloon radar target. Who's the idiot? You're sitting there. I can only imagine what Major Marcel was feeling at that moment. I have just been set up. Now I'm a fucking idiot. I look like a friggin' retard right now, holding this crap. You know, people are gonna be like, what the hell is wrong with you, man? Really? Radar target? UFO? Are you kidding me? You're an idiot. I'm sure that's what he felt like. But here's something that I need to show you. And all the stuff's on the internet right now. And I'm not talking about conspiracy friggin', RoswellConspiracy.com or whatever the hell. I'm talking about FBI.gov, CIA.gov. Go on there, Freedom of Information Act, libraries. Now, either the FBI and the CIA want you to know about certain things, but don't want to say it themselves, or they're just putting this information out there and say, look, we're putting it out there for you. It says it right there in black and white. And we're still going to say it's a weather balloon. Let me read you this. This is a teletype that came over to the FBI from, where is it? 8th Air Force, that's what it was. 8th Air Force, where General Ramey was. There it is. And this is what it says. I'm going to read it exactly how it says. Flying disc, information concerning. And when I say blank, it means it's scratched out, blacked out. Blank, headquarters, 8th Air Force. Telephonically advised this office that an object purporting to be a flying disc was recovered near Roswell. This date, which is July 8th, 1947. The disc is hexagonal in shape and it was suspended by a balloon by cable. From a balloon by cable, which balloon was approximately 20 feet in diameter. Blank further advised that the object found resembles a high-altitude weather balloon with radar reflector. Now you're saying, well, there you go. 8th Air Force tells you It's a weather balloon. Then it goes, but the telephonic conversation between their office, 8th Air Force, and Wright Field had not borne out this belief. Which means 8th Air Force lied to the FBI and told Wright Field it's not a weather balloon. Because then it continues. The disc and balloon is being transported to Wright Field by special plane for examination. Information provided this office because of national interest in this case. It's another thing about the military, especially the Air Force. We've got planes, carry fuel, pilots, crew chief, load masters. Costs a lot of money to fly those planes. You're not going to send scrap trash radar reflector from a fucking weather balloon to Wright Field, which is the research and development base for the Air Force. Okay? You're not going to send that crap by special plane for further examination if you know it's a fucking weather balloon radar target. You understand what I'm saying now? Okay? Doesn't make sense. Not going to do it. Not going to happen. Here's another thing that I found on the FBI website. It's from Guy Haut, who doesn't say who he is, but he's somebody. He's not a director, but he's was a field guy in charge of Washington, D.C., something like that. Says, the following information was furnished to SA, I don't know what that means, and it's all blanked out. An investigator for the Air Force stated that 3 so-called flying saucers had been removed in New Mexico. They were described as being circular in shape with raised centers, approximately 50 feet in diameter. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall. Dressed in metallic cloth of very fine texture, each body was bandaged in a manner similar to the blackout suits used by speed flyers and test pilots. According to Mr. Blank informant, the saucers were found in New Mexico due to the fact that the government has very high-powered radar set up in that area and is believed that the radar interferes with the controlling mechanism of the saucers. This is a bullshit thing that I pulled up from a freaking conspiracy website or from Joe Blow, whatever. This came from the FIOA library of the FBI directly. I printed it right from the website, and you can too. They're not numbered. And when I first went on their website, they had these all over the place. Now you can do it by date, but then you have to, or by type in UFO. You might get a lot of UFO, whatever. But now they have it to where it's just UFO. If you want to look at UFO stuff, there's a folder there for UFOs, and there is a shitload of stuff. Problem is, I went and I got all this stuff from, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. When I went back last week to look at it, there's multiple copies of the same stuff in there. Now, I don't know if they're deleting stuff, which I think maybe they are, or they're making certain things harder to find. But this particular one, I got this a while ago, but couldn't find it last week. But I could have missed it because there is a lot of documentation on UFOs on that website. But this is interesting because, like I said when in the beginning of this, that there's a lot of videos on Roswell and UFOs on YouTube, and I didn't know that. But this is interesting because I was watching a UFO documentary from 1979 on YouTube, and you could watch it. Right? I would advise you to watch it because there's some stuff on there, pictures and stories that you probably haven't heard of. I haven't, or seen some of those pictures or some of those stories. I think they talk about Roswell briefly, but some of the stories in there are pretty interesting. But they talk about this document, which I found pretty cool. Um, because here it says, and they reference this first paragraph, and they say um, this. I'll read it all. Reference is made to my memorandum to you in the above captioned manner dated July 10th, 1947, indicating that Brigadier General George F. Scullin of the Army Air Corps Intelligence has requested that the Bureau cooperate with the Army Air Corps Intelligence in connection with the above captioned manner. Flying saucers. The director noted on the reference memorandum, I would do it, but before agreeing to it, we must insist upon full access to discs recovered. For instance, in the Louisiana case, the Army grabbed it and would not let us have it for cursory examination. What does that tell you? The military knows about these things. They don't want the friggin' FBI to know about it. It's their business. What's the FBI going to do with it? And you look at a lot of these papers, and not just about UFOs, about weapons and stuff. There's a lot of stuff on weapons. Go to Los Alamos website, LANX, xxx.lanx.gov, I think. A lot. Plenty of research and development papers from scientists that posted. But anyway, you go through these CIA documents and the FBI, and you find that the military doesn't really get along with the CIA or FBI. And vice versa. The CIA doesn't tell the FBI stuff. The FBI doesn't tell the CIA stuff. The military doesn't tell nobody stuff. It's pretty weird. Because I wasn't going to bring this up, but I'm going to. With my interest in UFOs, it's not so much aliens that I'm interested in. I am interested in other life. Like, how do they live? Do they have relationships like we do? Do they have a government? How do they eat? Do they have pets? Do they have kids? Do they have relationships like us? Do they have trees? Do they friggin' go swimming? I don't know, man. Stuff like that. What I'm really interested in, and have been, is since I was a little kid, is how the hell do these UFOs fly? How do they hover in the air, man? What is that? You know what I mean? I remember being in the fourth grade at Worthsmith Elementary School in the Philippines. Like I said, my father was in the military. We were stationed at Clark Air Base in the Philippines, and we had to come up with a car that ran off something other than gasoline. We had to draw it and explain how it ran. My car was a UFO car, and it ran by magnets. That's the only thing I could think of on how the hell these UFOs fly. Magnets. It has to be something like that. I thought. My thinking was that they were able, like a magnet is like the Earth. we stick to the earth and magnets stick together. They attract. You know what I mean? And I don't know exactly how I explained it, but it was something like um, the magnets have the opposite polarity of the Earth's gravity and it propels it. And you can maneuver it and work it. I don't know what the hell. It's something like that. You get where I'm going with this. So it's a technology that I was really interested in and still am. And rumor is, and I don't know if this is true, but it makes a lot of sense if you look into the research of it, that there ran off what is called free energy, 0 point energy, or the 0 point field. Now, back in the 90s, when you talked about 0 point energy, the military and scientists in major universities would say there's no such thing, 0 point energy, 0 point field, free energy, no such thing. When in fact, in the 90s, they were working on it heavily. NASA, the Air Force, Lockheed. So they came out with this, the Air Force. Kind of messy. It's got coffee and probably spaghetti or whatever. This is old. I've had this for a while. Mass Modification Experiment Definition Study. Basically, the Air Force was putting it out there to, Lockheed, NASA, JPL. Listen, this is the stuff that these scientists are talking about. 0 point energy, 0 point field, saying that when you tap into it, it generates a gravitational field. Science of it is that when you tap into the 0 point field, if you're within the field, your mass turns to zero. Doesn't mean you shrink into nothing. It means while you're within the field itself, people looking in, how can I explain this? If you're within the field, your mass is zero according to what's outside the field. That makes sense. I don't know. I don't think I'm saying that right. I'm confusing. I think I'm confusing people. Let me say this. Lockheed in 90. This came out in 96. Actually, in the same year, Lockheed did a thing with Popular Science or Aviation Weekly, one of those magazines, talking about the B-1 stealth bomber. And they were talking about the research that they were doing, the research and development that they were doing on the B-1. And what they did was they were trying to close the crosshair even more of the B-1 on radar, make it even smaller. So what they did was they supercharged the front wing, negatively charged the rear exhaust, which worked. But what else happened was, what they weren't expecting, so they say, happened was that by supercharging the front end wing, negatively charging the exhaust, which I don't think has anything to do with it, reduced the drag by 60%. Anybody that knows anything about airplanes, and I don't know a lot, but what I do know is you cannot reduce drag, modify drag on an aircraft or on an automobile without modifying the aircraft or automobile itself. You understand? Their explanation was that by supercharging the front end wings, it was pushing away the air molecules, thus making less drag. Bullshit. What they were doing was creating a gravitational wave in front of the plane. When you are within the gravitational field of the 0 point field, your mass is reduced. Thus, go faster. It's not the drag that was reduced, it was the mass. I know it's a little confusing, but I don't know if you can still find this. You probably can. It's probably everywhere. Research that. There's a lot. There's a lot of research in it already, um, but there's a lot more to it. And I would advise anyone who's interested in free energy and UFOs to research the 0 point field extensively, um, because that's the future of our planet. Basically, not to just fly to Mars or wherever, or in space, doing space travel, because basically that's what this is. And I have other research papers from Los Alamos from way back in the early 90s. I talk about the 0 point field and the Air Force saying, listen, uh, they're talking about making it a weapon and applying the technology to our aircraft. That's what this whole thing's about. It's the Air Force saying, this is what we want, figure it out. Lockheed did. But what else it does, I mean, the anomaly with the gravity is a bonus, basically. But also, what it is it's constantly replenishes itself. The energy comes from the vacuum of space, which is everywhere. And it's abundant. And it's powerful. Powerful enough to create gravity. It's pretty powerful. But weaponizing it, it's not like an atomic bomb. There's no atom splitting or anything like that. Um, but the energy of it is more powerful than nuclear energy or nuclear fission, fusion, whatever. So maybe that's why it's been secret for so long and still not talked about. But it would change the world, man. No more gasoline, no more oil. But it's all about power. You know that. And you don't have to believe in UFOs to not know that. So I've been going on and on and on and on about this. And well, basically that's how I feel. And there you go. Come to your own conclusions, man. Um, do your own research. Hopefully you'll wake up, man, and join the rest of us. Not the crazy, there are extreme UFO people who really don't know the science or even, they just believe, man, which is cool, man. But yeah, it's those people who, because it seems like they don't take it seriously, then nobody, who else is going to take them seriously? I think, and then you start to get ridiculed for even bringing up the subject. But it's real, man. I really feel that we are close to a point in life where we're going to have another Roswell. Not that there's going to be crashes of UFOs, but there's going to be abundant sightings, man. If you go back to 1947, that's really where it all started. The summer of 1947. All these sightings, man, of UFOs everywhere, not just in New Mexico, everywhere. Can't all be swamp gas. Can't all be balloons. Can't all be hysteria or paranoia. Can't all be schizophrenic. Can't all be mirages. Just can't be. Anyway, I've been going on too long. Um, if you're still with me, thanks for your time, and be safe.